Chelsea take on Spurs tomorrow in the Premier League at 3 Point Lane. But with both teams coming off the back of reasonably patchy form, a spot in the top four on the line, and obviously derby bragging rights, can Chelsea get it done in tomorrow's must-win match? Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. And today that means talking about the London derby, right? And at the end of the day, this is the more important one at the moment, isn't it? Because we are in and around the same sort of level as Tottenham as far as the Premier League goes. Obviously, Arsenal at the moment having a really good time, so Tottenham is really the one to talk about. This is a winnable game. The thing, you know what? One of my commenters, a lady called Jackie, absolutely brilliant comment a little while ago that has just really got me thinking. With every single game we go into at the moment, I've just got literally no idea. You know, there's no momentum, there's no consistency. We could go into any game at all and win comfortably, win and make it look difficult like we did against Wolves, get a really stodgy draw, or even lose. Do you know what I mean? It's like our form has been so patchy this season that consistency has just been really, really hard to come by, hasn't it? So here's hoping that tomorrow is one of those games where we can just forget about all of the inconsistencies, focus on the event, which is the London derby with the bragging rights on the line, and get the job done. But guys, before we get into today's video, if you are enjoying the content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. Right, so Spurs are actually coming off the back of a reasonably patchy period of form themselves. So although Thomas Frank is a great manager and, you know, they've done a good job in some games this season, in others they are proving that they have also still got some developing to do. So none of the teams are really going into this favourites, I don't think. I don't really think there's an underdog and an obvious winner, do you know what I mean? You know, we desperately want to win this game, and I think I would argue we've got the stronger starting 11 to do so, but it's a difficult one. Thomas Frank, absolutely brilliant manager. Can't take that away from Spurs at all. So it's going to be a tough tie. So as far as Spurs go, their most recent game, they lost to Newcastle in the League Cup. Before that, they beat Everton 3-0 in the Premier League. And before that, they came out with a 0-0 draw to Monaco in the Champions League. So like I say, man, they are kind of up and down. Do you know what I mean? You would have expected them to win the Everton game. Yesterday's game against Newcastle was tough. Newcastle were always tough, especially they are turning into a cup team, aren't they? So, you know, we like I say, man, there's really no obvious underdog or you know, kind of favourite in this game for me. It is just going to be all about what each manager does on the day. But moving into team news, so mostly it's good. Do you know what I mean? Mostly it's good. The majority of the players are available. The only notable absentees are Levi Colwill, obviously, Cole Palmer, obviously, Benoit Badiashile still not going to be available, and Dario Asugo still not going to be available. The likes of Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and João Pedro are all going to return for the tie. Maresca spoke in his press conference about João Pedro in particular and said, you know, it's about protecting him, resting him in the game, and it was the same with Moises and Enzo Fernandez. They got some minutes, but, you know, it's about protecting them and making sure they're ready for the big ties, because the last we heard about these three players, they're not even training every day. Do you know what I mean? So they're going to be available, and I expect to see all three of them in the starting 11, which we will get into a little bit later. Other absentees will include, obviously, Liam Delap, who got posthumously sent off in the game against Wolves. What a comeback that was, right? What a comeback that was. And, you know, that was obviously something Maresca was asked about in the press conference as well. Like, did Liam Delap apologise? Have you spoken to him? It's like he went into the changing room, apologised straight away. Like, that's brilliant, man, fine. Do you know what I mean? But I don't really care about the apologies. Just don't be stupid and get yourself sent off. This would have been a really useful game to at least have had Delap on the bench for if things aren't going our way. Then you know you've got a striker that can potentially make a difference and offer you something different to come off the bench. And now we don't have that. And our striking situation isn't great at the moment. Do you know what I mean? It absolutely isn't great. So the starting 11, again, is going to be reasonably cobbled together because, you know, it's just, oh mate, it's just one of them, isn't it? It's just one of them. So let's do it. Let's talk about my predicted starting 11 for the Spurs game tomorrow in what has to be an absolutely must-win match. So starting with the goalkeeper, we always start with the goalkeeper, and I am actually going to be happy. This is how bad it's got, man. I'm going to be happy to see Robert Sanchez go back in between the sticks. Philip Jorgensen was terrible in the Wolves game, man. Absolutely awful. And I only imagine the talks about Maignan and ter Stegen are probably going to intensify in the future because of it. But yeah, for this one, Robert Sanchez back in the sticks. And I shouldn't be happy about that because Robert Sanchez isn't even the level, you know, for a big derby game as well. He's not necessarily the level that we want to see there. but he's the best option we've got, so he gets the start. Right back, I'll be very, very happy to see the return of captain Reece James. We just look a better team when he's there, man. You know, we've got a few core players now, haven't we? The likes of Cucurella, Caicedo, and Reece James, that the team just looks better when they're on, when they're on the pitch. Absolutely, Reece James is no exception. And aside from being a handy defender, do you know what I mean? Reece James is also capable of producing magic moments like whipped in crosses and lovely long balls and scoring free kicks, and obviously like that absolute belter that he scored in the last game he played as well. Do you know what I mean? Reece James, it's just like a relief at this point. It's only been one game with the rotated team, but I'm already desperate to see so many of our first teamers back on the pitch, and Reece James obviously is one of those. Over on left back, Marc Cucurella. Yoro Hato's been doing a reasonably decent job in the last couple of games, but he's been playing that more left centre back role. Do you know what I mean? Rather than like being a marauding kind of fullback or getting into midfield and stuff, and he's been doing that quite well. This is a game where Marc Cucurella can really, really help us out with his ability to get advanced. Reece James is getting better and better at playing that kind of right-sided centre-back role, but there is an argument as well. What we have seen in the last couple of games is a bit of an experiment where the centre defensive midfielder in either Moises Caicedo or Romeo Lavia has been dropping deep in between the two centre-backs who split, and then the two full-backs are actually getting a bit higher or inverting into midfield more, so maybe we could see some of that. But either way, Cucurella can play all of those roles. Easily one of the best players in our team, one of the best left-backs in the Premier League, if not the world, and always gets the start when fit and available. Right, so the centre-back pairing, I've been doing these at the same time recently, and I'm going to continue with that trend. Really difficult to predict, man, but I am going to say Trevor Chalobah and Josh Achiampong. Now, Josh Achiampong has not been absolutely faultless. Like, the kid's 19, do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, but to be honest, has looked like our most consistent centre-back in the last few games that he's played. So I expect him to carry on that good form. Consistency with centre-back pairings is so important, and one of the things we haven't had for a really long time now, maybe even up until before Bluco came in, is a consistent centre-back pairing. Do you know what I mean? It's chopped, it's changed. We've brought so many people in, and everyone keeps getting different opportunities, and it keeps chopping around, and that's really, really hard. So even if it's just for the sake of consistency, yes, he's really young, but he's been playing really well recently, and I think Josh Achiampong should get the start. Trevor Chalobah, I think, is just the best of the rest at this point. Do you know what I mean? Badiashiel's obviously injured. Tosin Adarabioyo has not been amazing since he's come back from his injury. And yes, Trevor Chalobah's made a couple of little fluffs here and there and a few suspect defending moments. But at the same time, I would argue that, as I said, he's kind of the best of the rest. So Achiampong and Trevor Chalobah in the centre-back spots for me. Double midfield pivot. So I think it's going to be Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. I'll do these two at the same time as well. Moises Caicedo is just obvious. He just always gets on the pitch when he's available. We've got a few minutes in the last game to, I guess, kind of maintain his fitness, but has been protected and rested, and is just absolutely instrumental for every single game that we win for the most part. The hard games, especially like this one, we need Moises Caicedo in the midfield. Enzo Fernandez, I played around with the idea of thinking, maybe because Lavia's not been terrible recently, maybe there's a chance to see Lavia there and see Enzo Fernandez in the 10, but I actually don't think we're going to do that. I think he will be partnered by Enzo Fernandez, and I think that, we'll see some sort of box midfield with Cucurella getting high or inverting, and Reece James will move into the back three, and ultimately that will make Enzo Fernandez kind of push up and get into that more attacking role that we've seen him in recently, right? So yeah, I think, that just kind of makes sense for me. And like I say, just a bit of a relief to start seeing some of these players back in the first 11. So moving on to the attacking three. Now, this is a tough one because Jamie Gittins was phenomenal against Wolves. Absolutely phenomenal. But lest we forget, Alejandro Garnacho scored against Sunderland 5 minutes in, and Maresca has come out and said about both of them that they're starting to adapt to the team and the way we want to play, so that's really cool. And yeah, I think Alejandro Garnacho gets the start on the left this time. On the right-hand side, I think it'll be Pedro Neto. Obviously rested for the last game, maybe come on for a few minutes at the end. I can't even really remember. It was all a bit of a blur because that game was crazy. But yeah, I think Pedro Neto gets the start on the right, and in the middle, I'm going to put João Pedro again. This was a bit of a tough one as well because I was like, like I say, I was thinking about maybe putting Fernandez in there, and that means Mark Gue misses out. I've just spoiled my striker spot pick there, and then maybe we put João Pedro up top. But at the same time, we need to put João Pedro where he's looked his most dangerous at the least. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully, if he's been a bit rested, he missed the last game, and taking a bit of time to recover and recuperate from his injury, then hopefully we can see some of that, really sparky creativity that we see from him when he's feeling at his best. And yeah, for me, João Pedro in the 10, and I've already spoiled it, but I do think that Mark Gue will get another start up front. I think he would have got the start anyway, even if Liam Delap hadn't have got sent off in the last game. I do believe that if Liam Delap had been available, he'd have done something similar where maybe to come on for the last half hour of the game or something like that. Potentially, if things weren't going our way, maybe a 45-minute change. But either way, Mark Yu is fit and available and has a goal recently. Do you know what I mean? At least one goal recently. So he's on some sort of form. That goal did come straight after, obviously, the opposing team went down to 10 men. So, this is a tough one to say for Mark Yu to get a goal necessarily. But I just think his relentless pressing energy, man. I really, really, really like Mark Yu. And this is kind of it, really. This is the game that Mark Yu has to really make an impact on. Do you know what I mean? Because now with Liam Delap being back, despite obviously being sent off, Maresca will just defer to Liam Delap for the most part when he's available. Do you know what I mean? I do genuinely think that will happen. So for me, this is kind of the last opportunity for Mark Yu to really make an impact. Bearing in mind as well that Tyreek George has been scoring goals from the striker spot. I do not like that because I think for the most part, he doesn't really add much to the game. But for me, this is Mark Yu's last opportunity to really prove that he can, deserve a shot in the first team. So that's it, guys. That is my starting 11 predicted for the Spurs game tomorrow. Let me know what yours are in the comments. I'd love to know. This feels like there could be a couple of changes. Do you know what I mean? Maybe Lavia gets to start and Enzo Fernandez gets pushed up top and João Pedro plays in the attack. Maybe Jamie Gittins gets in over Garnacho. Maybe Esteval gets a shot in the centre as well. There are because some of our really young players are starting to show really good form, it does feel like a few of our attacking spots at the very least could be shuffled around and, depending on how much we're protecting these guys now. We've had a lot of games recently and Esteval has not been starting every game. And he did start the last game, so he's not really been consistently started so far, has he? So it will be interesting to see. Either way, I'm not expecting this one to be, I was so close in the last one. I was a little bit overzealous, actually. I got one player out. But I think this one could be a myriad of different starting 11s, do you know what I mean? Depending on how he thinks the best way to take on Spurs is in particular. But for the most part, I think this is going to be fairly close at the least. So, big game, Spurs, Derby. Tell me what you think. I don't really do predictions, man. I don't really do score predictions, but I'll throw one in for this one. I am going to say 2-1. I think that it's going to be a tough game. Sunderland was a tough game. You can only expect, it's not even necessarily just Spurs. It's 3-point lane. Spurs are Spursy. We all know that, but Thomas Frank's a really good manager and they've got some very decent players. Do you know what I mean? So, like I said, there's no underdog in this game for me. Us and Spurs, despite Spurs being a bit higher than us in the table, that's only from one more win than we've got. Do you know what I mean? And their recent form has been as patchy as ours. They got a few more draws and we got a few more losses. But at the same time, it's 3-point lane, man. It's 3-point lane. So what do we think is going to happen? Guys, I will be streaming tonight on the Blue Lounge. We are doing a match preview where everyone will probably give their predictions and we'll probably talk a little bit about the Wolves game and stuff as well. So come and join us on for that one if you are interested. Me and Kai from Behind the Dugouts are going to do a watch along for the Spurs game tomorrow as well. And it's going to be interesting because we're going to try and stream on both of our channels at the same time. So you can either catch it on my channel here or if you see it on his, I'll be over on there as well. If we can figure the tech out, do you know what I mean? If we can figure the tech out, then we're going to do a watch along together and try and stream it on both channels. So nice one, guys. Hope you're all having an absolutely wicked day and I'll catch up with you very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.